Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 18, Moksha Sannyasa Yoga, Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation, Ashtadasho Adhyayah. 18.1, Arjuna Uvach, Sannyasasya Mahabaho, Tattvam Ikshami Veditum, Tyagasya cha Rishikesha, Prithak Keshi Nishodhana.
Arjuna said, O mighty armed one, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, tyag, and of the renounced order of life, sannyas, O killer of the Caste demon, master of the senses.
18.2, Sri Bhagwan Uvach, Kamayanam Karmanam Nyasham, Sannyasam Kavayo Viduhu, Sarva Karma Phala Tyagam, Prahustyagam Vichakshanaha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men call the renounced order of life, sannyas, and giving up the results of all activities is what the wise call renunciation, tyag.
18.3, Tyajyam Doshavada iti eke, Karma Prahur Manishinaha, Yajna Dana Tapaha Karma, Na Tyajyam iti chapare.
Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty, yet other sages maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned.
18.4, Nishchayam Shunu Me Tatra, Tyage Bharata Sattama, Tyago Hi Purusha Vyagra, Triveda Samprakirtitaha.
O best of the Bharatas, now hear my judgment about renunciation. O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of three kinds.
18.5, Yagnadana Tapa Karma, Na Tyajyam Karyam Eva Tat, Yagnodanam Tapaschaiva, Pavanani Manishanam.
Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls.
18.6, Etani api tu karmani, Sangam Tyaktva Phalani cha, Kartavyaniti me partha, Nishchitam Matamuttamam.
All these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Ptha. That is my final opinion.
18.7, Niyatasya tu sannyasah, Karmano nopapadyate, Mohatasya parityagas, Tamasah parikirtitah.
Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
18.8, Dukham iti eva yat karma, Kaya klesha bhaya tyajet, Sakritva rajasam tyagam, Naiva tyaga phalam labhet.
Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation.
18.9, Karayam iti eva yat karma, Niyatam kriyate arjuna, Sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva, Satyaga satviko matah.
O Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done, and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness.
18.10, Na dveshti akushalam karma, Kushalena nusajjate, त्यागी सत्त्व समाविष्टो मेधावी चिन्ह संशयः.
The intelligent renouncer situated in the mode of goodness, neither hateful of inauspicious work, nor attached to auspicious work, has no doubts about work.
18.11 न हि देहभृता शक्यं त्यक्तुं कर्माणि अशेषतः यस्तु कर्म फलत्यागी स त्यागीति अभिधीयते.
It is indeed impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities, but he who renounces the fruits of action is called one who has truly renounced.
18.12 अनिष्टम् इष्टं मिश्रं च त्रिविधं कर्मणः फलं भवति अत्यागिनां प्रेत्य न तु सान्यासिनां क्वचित्.
For one who is not renounced, the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such result to suffer or enjoy.
18.13 पञ्चैतानि महाबाहो कारणानि निबोध मे सांख्ये कृतान्ते प्रोक्तानि सिद्धये सर्वकर्मणाम्.
Almighty armed Arjuna, according to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. Now learn of these from me.
18.14 अधिष्ठानां तथा कर्ता कारणं च पृथग्विधम् विविधाश्च पृथक् चेष्टा दैवं चैवात्र पाञ्चमम्.
The place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the supersoul, these are the 5 factors of action.
18.15 शरीरवान् मनोभिर्यत् कर्म प्रारभते नरः न्यायं वा विपरीतं वा पाञ्चैते तस्य हेतवः.
Whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these 5 factors.
18.16 तत्रैवं सति कर्तारम् आत्मनं केवलं तु यः पश्यति अकृत बुद्धित्वान् न स पश्यति दुर्मतिः.
Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are.
18.17 यस्य न अहङ्कृतो भावो बुद्धिर्यस्य न लिप्यते हत्वापि स इमान् लोकान् न हन्ति न निबध्यते.
One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions.
18.18 ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं परिज्ञाता त्रिविधा कर्म चोदना करणं कर्म कर्तेति त्रिविधः कर्म संग्रहः.
Knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower of the 3 factors that motivate action, the senses, the work, and the doer, are the 3 constituents of action.
18.19 ज्ञानं कर्म च कर्ता च त्रिधैव गुणभेदतः प्रोच्यते गुणसङ्ख्यानि यथावत् शृणुतान्यपि.
According to the 3 different modes of material nature, there are 3 kinds of knowledge, action, and performer of action. Now hear of them from me.
18.20 सर्वभूतेषु येनैकं कामं भावम् अव्ययम् इक्षते अविभक्तं विभक्तेषु तज्ज्ञानं विद्धि सात्विकम्.
That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness.
18.21 Prithaktvena tu yajnanam nana bhavan prithak vetti sarveshu bhuteshu tajnanam viddhi rajasam.
That knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there is a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in the mode of passion.
18.22 Yattu kritsnavad ekasmin karaye saktam ahitukam atatvarthavad alpam cha tattamasam udaritam.
And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness.
18.23 Niyatam sangarahitam araga dveshata kritam afala prepsuna karma yattat satvikam uchyate.
That action which is regulated and which is performed without attachment, without love or hatred, and without desire for fruitive results, is said to be in the mode of goodness.
18.24 Yattu kame psuna karma sahankarena va punah kriyate bahulayasam tad raja sam udaritam.
But action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires and then enacted from a sense of false ego is called action in the mode of passion.
18.25 Anubandham shayam himsam anapeksha cha paurusham mohad arabhayate karma yattat tamasam uchyate.
That action performed in illusion, in disregard of scriptural injunctions and without concern for future bondage or for violence or distress caused to others, is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Sanchi Mataji. That was very nice recitation, nice pronunciation. And thank you, Anna Mataji, for that wonderful English
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Recitation also. So let us see. So let's see, what do we do now? View. So welcome everyone. Let's see who we have today. We have Anna Mataji, Bhagavati Mataji, Bharat Prabhu, and Chandra Chaitanya Prabhu, Geta. Nice to see you again, Geta. Someone, Hare Krishna. There's a facility. If you go click next to your name, it says more. You get the chance to actually put your name in there. So someone, Hare Krishna, Emma Mataji. Someone iPhone again, you can actually put your name. Jai Shri Mataji, Jyoti, Kalpana, Kusham Mataji, Madhavi, Meena, Mitali, Naveen Chandra Prabhu, Padma Malini, Pinky Mataji, Preeti, Rupa, Sanchi Mataji, Santosh Mataji, Saroj, Seema Mataji, Shobana, Sukha, Umi Mataji, Usha Mataji, Varsha Mataji, Yashwini, Dev Kishan, regular, KP Prabhu Mataji, Krishangi Mataji, Nilam Rasalila, Shabani and Girish Prabhu, and Sharad Prabhu. Thank you. I feel purified just reciting your names. You're all so regular on our forum. Certainly you must be most dear to Lord Krishna. So thank you for coming. So today we'll carry on. We'll continue with our recitation and discussion of chapter 18, entitled Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. And today we will discuss text number 9 in more detail. But we'll say the Mangala Charanam prayers first. Please feel to join me behind your muted mics. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpaturubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastichadeshatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So today we are going to recite text number 9. Karyamiti eva yat karma niyatam kriyate Arjuna sangam trakva phalam chaiva satyagha satvika mataha. Word for word translation. Karyam, it must be done. Iti, thus. Eva, indeed. Yat, which. Karma, work. Niyatam, prescribed. Kriyate, is performed. Arjuna, O Arjuna. Sangam, association. Tvaktva, giving up. Phalam, the result. Cha, also. Eva, certainly. Sa, that. Tyagaha, renunciation. Satvikaha, in the mode of goodness. Mataha, in my opinion. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It's a short purport. Prescribed duties must be performed with this mentality. One should act without attachment for the result. He should be disassociated from the modes of work. A man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. He simply works for Krishna. And when he gives up the result for Krishna, he is acting transcendently. So this is a beautiful and very relevant verse and purport for all of us. In the least, we should have the desire to act in a mood of renunciation, in the mode of goodness. The Lord has been describing to Arjuna that there are 3 types of renunciation. Renunciation in the mode of ignorance, in the mode of passion, and in this verse, in the mode of goodness. So what are the factors? Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, duties must be performed with this mentality. What is this mentality? Another way for phrasing this mentality is in a certain type of consciousness. So we should perform our prescribed duties in a very specific type of consciousness. And what is this consciousness? There are three main elements to it, according to this verse. The first element is we have to act with a sense of duty. This is my duty. This has been ascribed to me by my karma or by the Lord. I should perform this duty. And that is an unshakable sense of duty. The second aspect of the mentality, while I am doing this duty, I must keep aloof of material consciousness. That is the negative prohibition. There is also the positive injunction. So the negative prohibition is I must keep aloof from material association. And obviously, what will the positive injunction be? I must keep myself in spiritual association. And the third element is the fruits of doing this duty. It does not belong to me. It belongs to Krishna. And Prabhupada says, if we can act in this consciousness, we will be transcendently situated. And that's all what we are aspiring to do, to be transcendently situated. We don't want to be caught up in the material consciousness, because when we are caught up, we suffer. It's not a situation in which we can become peaceful. So we want to situate ourselves transcendently. So let's try to examine each of these elements in a bit more detail, because it's so relevant to us. So the first one is acting out of duty. And Prabhupada says, or in the translation, it's my duty. I have to do it. There may be so many frustrations. There may be so many challenges. There may be so many things we don't like about it, but it's my duty. There was a nice extract I once read from Kadamba Kanan Swami Maharaj's blog, in which he drew the distinction between Vedic culture and materialistic culture. And in their blog paragraph, Maharaj points out, he says, in Vedic culture, there is no such thing as looking at the human's right, but instead they look at the human's duty. This is very interesting because the Western approach to life is about my rights. I have the right to be who I am. I have the right to live my own way. This is the modern consciousness. I have the right to my own happiness. I have the right to decide what is right for me. I have the right to live how I feel I want to live. That's the human right consciousness. But opposed to that is the Vedic culture. In Vedic culture, the consciousness is about dharma. It's about religious principles. And in every situation, the first question that one asks is not what is my human right? It is, what is my duty? What is my prescribed duty? And you see this in all of the Vedic literatures, in all of the saintly persons, in all of the devotees of the Lord. If you read Srimad Bhagavatam, if you read Mahabharata, if you read the Ramayana, you will see foremost governing the devotee's life is the sense of duty. And gradually one has to learn to mold his life according to prescribed duty. Prescribed duty by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is the important principle of the mode of goodness. We are talking here about the mode of goodness. This is a very, very important principle in Vedic culture. Now one may ask, how do I know what is my duty? Yes, okay, I'm ready to act according to the Vedic principle. But what is my duty? That is an interesting question. Srila Prabhupada writes that there are two types of duty for every living entity. There is the duty which pertains to our conditional nature, and there is the duty which pertains to our constitutional nature. By conditional nature, we mean that which is pertaining to the body. So every one of us, we are born according to some psychophysical nature, every one of us. And our duty, according to Van Ashrama, the 4 Varnas and the 4 Ashramas, is to be situated in one of the Ashramas or the Varnas according to the psychophysical nature. You know, the 4 Varnas are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So according to our psychophysical nature, we may be inclined to be a warrior or a Brahmana or a tradesperson or a laborer. That's just according to our body. And then according to the ashram, we can either remain celibate all our life as a brahmachari, or as a married person, or as a retired person, or as a renunciant. So that is one type of duty. And we need to understand, normally according to Vedic culture, the parents or the gurus, they understand immediately, this is the psychophysical nature of the child. So they try to train them in that way. And then the second nature is that duty which pertains to the soul. Of the two, obviously the more important one is the duty which pertains to the soul. And what is that duty? In one lecture in Mombasa in 17 September 1971, Srila Prabhupada said, and Lord Chaitanya says, the prime duty of living entity is to understand that he is eternal servant of Krishna. Jivera Swarup Hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. That is our real constitutional position. We are eternal servants of God, and therefore we are engaged in different types of services. We can see also the relevance of this to Arjuna. In the beginning of the battle, Arjuna decided he's not going to fight. He's not going to fight because he didn't think it was right. And according to his human rights, if he didn't think it was right, he was not comfortable doing it, killing his uncles, he shouldn't do it. Why should he kill if he didn't feel it was right? But Krishna was pointing out to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, from a bodily point of view, you are a Kshatriya. You are a warrior. Your duty is to fight, so you should do your duty. That is one aspect from which Krishna was trying to instruct Arjuna. And then from the second aspect, Arjuna, from a constitutional point of view, he is servant of Krishna. And his duty was to act according to the desires and wishes of Krishna, because the duty of the servant is to act according to the wishes and the order of the master. So from both perspectives, Arjuna, he should have been fighting because it was his duty in the first instance. And secondly, it was the desire of Krishna. In the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's one interesting incident with a Brahmana in the Madhya Leela, chapter 7, called the Kurma Brahmana. Many of you may have read. The Kurma Brahmana, he said he was frustrated with his family life. And he told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please, my Lord, allow me to leave my family and come with you. And what did Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tell this Kurma Brahmana? He told the Kurma Brahmana, if you follow this instruction, your materialistic life at home will not obstruct your spiritual advancement. indeed, if you follow these regulative principles, we will again meet here, or rather you will never lose my company. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is not necessary. There is no need. In this verse, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if you follow this instruction. So what was that instruction? Does anyone know who's read Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita?
Was it always remember Krishna?
Yes, in one sense, but Mahaprabhu was a little more specific about it.
Oh, yeah.
Who said that?
Padma Malini.
Wonderful, Padma Malini Mataji. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told the Kurma Brahmana, instruct everyone to follow the orders of Sri Krishna as they are given in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him a constitutional duty. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had become his guru. So in the Vaishnava culture, the prime duty of the living entity is to make the order of the spiritual master one's life and soul. This is the prime duty. In one conversation on 1st September 1971 in London, one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, if one accepts initiation from a bona fide spiritual master, but continues to perform material activities, are they still bound by the law of karma? And Prabhupada's answer was so emphatic. He said, he has to do everything under the instruction of the spiritual master. That is his duty. Shishya. Shishya means one who voluntarily accepts disciplinary measures from the spiritual master. He is ruled by the spiritual master. So this is the prime, and Prabhupada says, you know, the duty of the living entity is to make the spiritual master, the instruction of the spiritual master one's life and soul. You can also read the purport to the 31st verse of the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Prabhupada talks about the two types of swadharmas, specific duties. And there Prabhupada talks about the duty pertaining to the body and the duty pertaining to the soul. You can read that for yourself. So this is the sense of duty. And you know, interestingly, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is talking about someone working in a factory. And I found it very interesting. You know, we can draw many parallels to our own situation because Srila Prabhupada made it such a contemporary example. It could be someone working in the office, someone working in the factory, even a housewife working in the kitchen or serving at home, or a father serving at home. The same principles apply. That is why this verse is so relevant. So that is the first principle, the duty. And where was it I wrote now? Or maybe it was somewhere else in the slides. Anyway, we may come to that. So the second point, the second element is we have to, while we're working in the factory, while we're working in the office, wherever we are doing our work, our karma. The second principle is remaining free from material association. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada captures this very nicely in one sentence. Well, actually in two sentences. Prabhupada says, he should be disassociated from the modes of work. A man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. So in these two sentences, Prabhupada is talking about three types of material association. The first is associating with the modes of material nature. Secondly, associating himself with that particular type of work. And the third one is associating with the other workers in the factory. We should remain aloof from all three. The modes, Prabhupada says we can remain aloof from the modes when we go to the factory. If we chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the morning, we'll remain aloof for the rest of the day. Secondly, not associate himself with the work. When we go to the work, we should not think, I am an engineer, I am a receptionist, I am a doctor. No. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I am not a Brahmana, I am not a Vaishya, I am not a Shudra, I am not a Kshatriya. Neither am I a Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, or a Sannyasi. But I am simply the servant of the servant of the servant of the master of the gopis, Sri Krishna. Once, one disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he was married and he had a son. So he came to Srila Prabhupada and he said to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, this is my son. And this devotee was an artist serving in the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. He said, Srila Prabhupada, when my son grows up, I want to teach him to become like me, to become an artist. And Prabhupada says, artist? You are not an artist. You are a servant of the spiritual master, the servant of Krishna. And the point Srila Prabhupada is making, we should never consider ourselves to be part of some work. No, this is just a designation. Engineer, doctor, optometrist, dentist, plumber, electrician, builder, whatever it is. It's just a designation. And lastly, we should not associate with ourselves with the workers of the factory. Certainly, if they are devotees working in the same factory, we can associate with them. But as far as possible, we should try to remain aloof from the others. And that is renunciation. That is an aspect of renunciation, because you're giving up the modes, you're giving up the conception that you're a particular vana and ashram, and you give up the conception of associating with devotees, non-devotees. And the third element of this consciousness, of this mentality, is being detached from the fruits. And Srila Prabhupada gave one very nice way by which we can always remain detached from the fruits. And Prabhupada said, if one simply continues to think that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, without even performing any other process of devotional service, he can attain full success, for simply by this feeling one can perform all 9 processes of devotion. So this is the consciousness, dear devotees. In whatever work we are doing, if we always remember, I am an eternal servant of Krishna. I am now just living in a form of a dream. According to the body I have, I'm having to perform certain work. But this is not me, really. The real me is I am servant of Krishna. So you can be doing widgets in a factory. You can be shoving paper in the office. But you can always see myself, this is external. This is according to my body. But really, I am servant of Krishna. And while you work, if you can always think like this, I am servant of Krishna. I belong to Krishna. I come from Krishna. We'll always remain aloof from the work and also aloof from the fruits of our work. This is a very famous verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Many of you may know it, from the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto, 13th verse. Ata pumbir dvija shreshta vanashram vibhagasha Tvanustistasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. O best of the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste and divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of God. This verse is saying, if whatever we are doing, we simply think, I am servant of Krishna. Maybe Krishna be pleased with what I am doing. Maybe Krishna be pleased with the results, the fruit of which I offer him from what I am doing. This is the highest perfection of any duty. And this is a very famous verse from the Bhagavatam. So, a very instructive verse, a very relevant verse. If we can always try to cultivate this type of mentality, this type of consciousness, then in whatever work or whatever activities we act, we can always, Prabhupada says here, we can always be acting transcendently. This is a very short purport, but so powerful by Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada himself in his whole life, if you read Prabhupada's biography, he always says, it was my duty. He says, as a spiritual master, he said, it's my duty to chastise you. It is my duty to guide you. He said, I received the order of my spiritual master. It was my duty to fulfill the order of my spiritual master. It is my duty to do this. Prabhupada, you'll see so often if you go to Vedabase and you type the word duty, or even in the Lilamrita, duty, you'll see how much and how often this word comes up. So I'll stop here. I've spoken quite a bit. I'd like to really hear your own realizations and your own reflections on today's discussion on this verse. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Anyone? Are you all with me still? Have I lost you? Oh.
Usually you're here.
Oh, you're here. Okay. Did it make sense what we discussed today?
Yes.
Do you feel
Yes, Prabhuji, it was wonderful, wonderful.
Do you feel it's relevant to your own lives, this verse that the Lord is speaking?
Very
Yes,
much.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Would anyone like to maybe share with us how you feel it's relevant in your own life?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Mataji.
It's relevant in everybody's life and definitely my life. But I was just thinking we're so conditioned to think that we do things for, some reward or some purpose. It's how to always remember that it's not for us, that not to be attached to the fruits of what we do.
Yes, Jai Shri Mataji. That's a very relevant point you make, because we've been in this material world for millions of lifetimes. This consciousness that I am the enjoyer of the fruits of my work. It is, in one sense, it's so ingrained in us. It is so ingrained in us. And ordinarily, it's very, very difficult to come out of such a consciousness. But, we have some very, very powerful process in the Krishna conscious process. The chanting of the holy name. It is so powerful, it can lift us up.
Yes.
The hearing of Krishna Katha. And then also, I try to make this point in today's class. If we can always remain in this consciousness, Jivera Swarab Hoy Krishna Nityadas. I am eternal servant of Krishna. I am eternal servant of Krishna. This whole journey of mine in this material world, I'm like living in a dream. It's just a temporary manifestation. Even the fruits of this work, it is so temporary. I come to this world with nothing. I leave with nothing. So what sense does it make for me to try to claim proprietorship? This is this consciousness of claiming it, it is deviant. It doesn't belong to me, so how can I even think? But we have to, it Prabhupada says, through training, through practice, and through good association,
Yes.
it will come. It will come. For certain, it will come.
And it's with, you know, we, after all the hearing the katha and the chanting and the reading, we understand that we're just here for a blip on the line of our, you know, our whole existence, and
Yes.
we come with nothing and we take nothing with us. But it's still, you know, like when we go to work, it's still difficult. You know, we have to keep remembering that the fruits of this work is, you know, is not me, it's for Krishna. And we know that it's usually, most people when we go to work, it's not for us, it's for our families, or it's for maintaining whoever. But it just seems such a long distance for me to, and I can only talk about myself, to be in that pure consciousness where, you know, I never think that I am doing something for me, you know. It's to, I mean, usually when I'm working, or every morning when I pray to Krishna, I know that I say to him, I know that I can't do anything. Everything I do, you're giving me, you know, you're empowering me. Krishna, I'm in your hands. And then, because I know I can't do anything without him, he gives us everything. He gives us remembrance, forgetfulness, everything. But even then, it's so, I try as hard as I may, I feel as though I still have to keep remembering that, you know, it's not me doing this. You know, this is not mine.
That's so true, Jayashri Mataji. It's very honest of you to speak like that. And I will also put my hand up to say, you know, being in material conditioning for so long, it's a constant, you know, practice that we have to remind ourselves. Therefore, in the Bhagavatam, Krishna says, when I feel particularly merciful to somebody, I take away, instead of them having to do the hard work of giving it up, I'll personally take everything away from them.
Yeah.
And they have nothing left but to depend on me. That's Krishna's special mercy to us. Many of us don't wish that.
No.
We don't want Krishna to show us that type of mercy. So we have to, yeah, it's a journey, Jayashree. I think everyone on today's session, if we're honest with ourselves, will admit that this consciousness, you know, it's a work in progress. It's a constant work in progress.
I aspire to achieve it one day. Okay.
Yes, we all do.
Yeah.
We all do.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Krishnavani Mataji.
Prabhupada as well, right?
Sorry, Mataji?
Krishna did that with Srila Prabhupada.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And then he's just totally surrendered. And the other thing I like today's class, that, you know, like, we are trying to, when you are at work, you try to remember Krishna all the time, but it's not that easy. Now and then, yes, it comes, but our duty is to try and give Krishna consciousness as much as possible. The way, you know, you have to look for the ways, like giving the prasadam, or try them to chant Krishna's name and things like that. So, yeah.
Yes.
And the other thing is, like you say, that, yeah, we are, you know, in the outside world, you know, like in non-devotees, but we don't take their association. We have to try to be aloof, but, you know, like, try to, you know, like, associate a little bit and try to give, if we get an opportunity, Krishna consciousness. But whatever they are, you know, like conversing or their activities, you don't like to participate in that. So, yeah. But
That's
thanks
so
to
true.
Srila Prabhupada,
Yeah,
that knowledge, we have to put it in practice like that.
true. That's what I found so interesting about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction to that Brahmana, Kurma Brahmana. He gave him a very practical solution. Just try to tell people about Krishna. And the same thing Srila Prabhupada instructed his followers. Just try to, whatever resources you have, try and spread Krishna consciousness. And when you do that, you will also get some special mercy. So special mercy that this mentality, that this consciousness will stay with you. And this is the power of the Sankirtan movement. So what you said is, it just reminded me, Mataji. Thank you for that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
And the other thing, wherever I go, I when I go to work, I keep my tilak on. So that creates an opportunity to preach. And some pious souls, yes, they do inquire, what is this? This is look beautiful. What is this? So we get an opportunity to explain to them. So that way they get purified.
That's so nice.
By watching and by listening. So
yeah, just by looking at you with your tilak, that's preaching. That's preaching.
Purified.
Yeah. Thank you, Krishna Vani Mataji. Chandra Chaitanya Prabhu, you'd like to add something or reflection or comment?
Wonderful session on one's duties, both material and spiritual. Thank you for enlightening us. And I'm sure you are aware that we had this session with Vaisesika Prabhu in the afternoon about how to distribute the sets of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and further on, Sutapa Prabhu with the Pandav Sena did something similar. And the realization comes to me, and it makes me sort of, grateful that Krishna came down as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give his mercy to one and all without discrimination. So I feel that all of us, all the living entities, have a duty to do something. Duty, because the word duty has been the theme in this session. So I was thinking that if all the participants try the level best to distribute at least one set, then we are already 40 sets up.
Yes, 44 people on this. If everyone takes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction to that Kurma Brahmana,
yes,
my duty is to spread Krishna consciousness. Let's distribute each one set of Chaitanya Charitamrita. That will be wonderful fulfillment of our duty.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Mahaprabhu is so merciful, and Prabhupada is even more so. So there is no doubt that if one, just like you have said before, how to do, that itself will bring the blessing of the whole Acharya chain. So let's do it with humble gratitude. I humbly request all the devotees to please endeavor. This is something that is unique. It may not be repeated for the next, billions of years. Let's do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. You are one of our seniors in this forum. I think it's our duty to follow you as our senior and endeavor to distribute Chaitanya Charitamrita. Thank you.
Prabhu, how much is the set?
The set, which is 9 volumes, without delivery, if they come and pick it up from one of our 3 locations, it'll be 75 pounds. If you want it to be couriered, it'll be 85 pounds.
Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Any other questions, comments, reflections?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you
Hare
for
Krishna.
wonderful class.
Hare Krishna Mata.
This reminded me Mother Kalangana, because Mother Kalangana, wherever she used to go, so even if she goes to the grocery shop, she will make sure she will ask them to say Hare Krishna. And even the supermarkets, she will go. She will make sure whoever she meets, she will make sure they say Hare Krishna to her. So she was giving Krishna consciousness to everyone she was seeing, meeting. So it was a practical example in front of me. I had it every time I was with her. She would make sure even on the street she's walking, she will say Hare Krishna to everyone. Also, I wanted to ask you that if you are a housewife and you serving your family, so as a duty, so what kind of consciousness you should have? That is it like the serving the family is because they are Krishna's devotees, they are Krishna's children, so serving them is serving the Lordship as well.
Yes, Mataji. If your family are devotees, certainly that's the consciousness, that they are devotees of Krishna, and I am serving devotees of Krishna.
And what if they are not devotees in that scenario?
Then in that scenario, you think, my duty is a housewife, right? And my duty according to my bodily duties is to act the best I can as a housewife. And you try to serve them, and also you are a devotee and they're not a devotee. By your personal example, try to attract them towards becoming a devotee. So your duty as the Prabhupada says, or in the Bhagavatam, in the 5th canto, it says, no one should become a guru, a teacher, or a parent if they cannot liberate their dependence from the cycle of birth and death. So most of us are parents, so we take it as one of our duties to help them become free from the cycle of birth and death. That is the instruction of Lord Rishabdev in the Bhagavatam. So both is there, we serve them, but we also serve them with the mood that ultimately they are servants of Krishna. And also as a parent, as we have a duty to help them come out of the cycle of birth and death. These are just some of my own reflections.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. That really helps me to keep that consciousness when I'm performing my duty.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
So as a housewife or as a mother, I suppose my best duty is that I'm feeding prasadam to my family, whether they are devotees or not.
Yes.
So that's a very important role we are playing, isn't it?
True, very true. Giving them prasadam, you are giving them Krishna consciousness in the best and most practical way possible.
Yeah. So even if they're non-devotees, it's fine. At least we are giving them prasadam.
Yes, whether they're devotees or not devotees, the duty, if you are a housewife, is to serve them as a housewife or a mother, how a mother needs to act here.
Yes, yes.
And that's very purifying. Even if they're not devotees, if we act according to our duty, is very purifying for us.
I think it was such a nice reminder of the 3 components you went through. We're all aware of it, but we forget in the background. We kind of put it in the background, and then it was really useful to go through those today, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
I also found reading the verse, Mataji, and trying to dive into Srila Prabhupada's, although it was short, was very purifying for myself.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
There's a comment from Bhagavati Mataji. First, we develop internal detachment and then renounce externally. What a wonderful comment, Bhagavati Mataji. So true. So true. What comes out is what we have inside.
That's true. Yeah, they always say clean yourself within, then outside, isn't it?
Yes. Thank you. Satyanarayan Prabhu or Madhavi Mataji, y'all are unmuted. Did y'all have some comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. My realization in that is to get highest perfection. Yes, it can be received, and it's not hard, as Prabhupada says. And regarding the duty, we do our duty because we have come for that in this material life. That is a devotees or your family, or families are devotees or non-devotees, it doesn't matter. The consciousness you carry, but you carry that you are detached from the fruits of that our duties, then you don't feel that like we always expect that our children are not doing or not serving. We've done this for them. There's always a desire that at some stage of our life they would help us, and if they don't, you feel bad. But then if you are detached from the fruits of that, it helps you. And that way, what you perform, I think children takes it from your activities. So we rather than personal experience, rather than pushing them to become Krishna conscious if they are not, rather we show by our own experience that they see how we are performing and how we are living our life. And then
Thank you, Mataji. That's very, very wise words. I think it was Shakespeare that said, to become free of expectation is the way to happiness. When we expect, that's when disappointment comes. But when you have no expectation, means you become free from the fruits of all your action, then you become peaceful. So thank you so much for sharing that Mataji. Very, very nice. Hare Krishna. All right. If there's no other comments, reflections, I thank you all for your time today and your participation. Krishangi Mataji, did you want to add anything?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Very nice class.
Vanchakalpa Turabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Hari
Gaura
ki jai.
Premanande.
Hare
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 Krishna.
Bol. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Hare Krishna.